Hi and welcome to another Modern Commerce Talk from Avensia. My name is Jack Stratten, your host from Insider Trends, and I'm joined again by Lawrence Greenway, platform strategy consultant at Mirakl, who are the global leader in marketplace technology. There seems to be so many kind of good news stories around marketplaces, big and small. Everyone's been, of course, talking about the domination of marketplaces at the top end, like Amazon, but actually there's been so many kind of industry specific success stories as well, which have been brilliant. And it's evident, I think, even from a very basic understanding of marketplaces, that the benefits kind of for businesses and customers and sellers are enormous. And I think even just from the business point of view in building it in the first place, I would assume that this is really a kind of something that grows exponentially in terms of the different benefits, because as you add those new customers and it grows and you add more sellers, your revenues in all kinds of ways and the amount of data that you can collect and all these benefits just explode. Marketplaces really are winning. So I guess my question to Lawrence for this one is why? What is it about marketplaces that's kind of making them so successful at the moment in retail? What's happening?
Yeah, so I think that what we've seen over the last year has been just a continuation of, and even acceleration of, the already dominant trend from marketplaces in global e-commerce. I think in the most recent study from Digital Commerce 360, who track the top 100 marketplaces globally, they estimated that about 62% of global e-commerce now is done on marketplaces, at least on the consumer side. So yeah, nearly 2/3 of every penny spent online last year was spent on a marketplace. So clearly the marketplace business model is an effective one for selling online, and is taking over versus more traditional business models that have been at play for a long time. So yeah, I think that clearly there's a trend there, and our perspective on why marketplaces are winning, there's a number of layers you could look at. If you look just at the very top end, I think the agility element has been very important throughout the pandemic. You look at even Amazon, for example, a business that had to shut down some of their fulfillment centers due to the pandemic in places like France and the UK. That doesn't mean that Amazon itself shuts down, because they rely on not just their own infrastructure. They also have marketplace sellers who are able to use different routes to get products to customers and to get products themselves. If you're a marketplace and you suffer from similar challenges, because you're able to leverage the ecosystem that exists around you, your agility in times like this, when things are very unpredictable, is much higher than a business that chooses to own that entire process. So yeah, I think in the last year, marketplaces have done very well because of that agility. But if you look at, and even at normal times, some of the things that marketplaces really do well are network effects. You get positive network effects in general if you launch a solid marketplace proposition. The more customers you bring in, the more sellers you attract, the more products they bring, the more customers that come in because you're adding more products. It's a pretty virtuous cycle, and if you get a marketplace business going well, that effect can be extremely powerful. So yeah, I think on those two levels over the last year, marketplaces have continued to do what they've already been doing.
And it's I don't know for certain that this would be the case, but something we've noticed in Insider Trends during the pandemic is there's been a real acceleration of customers being more promiscuous, basically less brand loyal, less business loyal. Which goes in hand with the marketplace, the idea of marketplace is growing, actually. And I wonder whether for a lot of brands, I don't know how much evidence you might have of this or experience of it, but how much actually an industry-specific marketplace could sometimes help to alleviate some of that loss of customer, or loss of loyalty anyway. Because it seems to me that increase in a lack of loyalty during the pandemic is unsurprising. More people online finding about more brands, more places to get their stuff, but actually you can start to get that back because a marketplace means you can offer that customer everything in one place.
Yeah, I think there's the internet consumer is a very fickle person in many ways. I know I am as well, and it's very easy just to open a new tab and find that same product being sold by another vendor somewhere else on the online, and for me to make a choice as to where I do that. I think what marketplaces do is they give a way to centralize some of that choice. And so if you can become that hub where customers will know that they're going to get a great offer, they're going to see a range of choice. Sometimes they can even see on an individual product level, when you look at Amazon and other marketplaces as well, multiple sellers selling the same product with different prices and different delivery times, etc. And so for a customer, that's great, because you're coming in, you're able to measure the choice that you get, you're able to shop a large range, and you're able to see choice. And I think if you can become that hub and create that level of choice, then customers are always going to be very ready to come and see what you have to offer. But yeah, if you limit yourself and you curate the range you have down to a point where you feel, I have one blue vase in my store, and then customers are coming to shop for maybe 20. With a marketplace, you can produce those 20 different vases very easily, because you're not having to buy those products, warehouse them, etc. So you can have a wide choice of blue vases and not really lose much on the profitability stakes. Whereas in a traditional retail model, you're going to have to buy those 20 vases, you're going to have to warehouse them, and then maybe take a loss on them if customers only like one or two of them. So I think there's, the benefits there are very, very clear, and you're able to build that range quite easily with a marketplace just by recruiting the right sellers. So it's when it comes to that perspective, it's pretty simple trade-off.
And from the business case, then, for me, I think I totally get it from the business point of view and why it's being so successful. The customers are getting more choice, centralized choice, which I think is a really good way of looking at it. Sellers, overall, is it a similar thing? It's kind of largely kind of win-win for sellers because it's easier for them. And is it better from a seller's point of view to maybe just have a few different marketplaces to be selling their wares? Is that kind of the view from their point of view?
Yeah, I think with the sellers, it's in the UK, for example, sellers are kind of single-threaded. They have Amazon, they have eBay, and then maybe a couple of other large marketplaces are next. It's probably the next biggest one, but it's fashion and homewares mostly. But there's not much choice, and so in many ways that's a bit of a risk to those sellers. So that sellers are always looking for newer, more profitable routes to market. And if you look at a market like France, for example, where marketplace as a business model is adopted by 15, 16 of the top 20 online retailers there, sellers have a ton of choice as to where they can go and sell. And so it becomes a competition, much like you compete for customers, you start to compete for sellers as well. And so if you as a retailer are able to offer a good offering, and actually the best in class marketplaces are then adding additional services to support sellers in selling their products as well. So providing advertising and marketing services to those sellers, or fulfillment services if they're needed as well. And those are just additional revenue streams for the operator of those marketplaces. And when you look at Amazon, that can sometimes equal multi-billion-dollar businesses. I think their advertising business is well over 10 billion now. They've built as many warehouses as you can count across the globe off the back of the same model. So it's very powerful when it gets moving. But yeah, it's a competition on the seller side as well for the operators to get the best sellers with the best products.
And just as a kind of final wrap up, and this might slightly put you on the spot, so I apologize in advance, but where I guess I'm kind of interested in, with this massive growth and a lot of these marketplaces, other than Amazon, of course, are making lots of money, and there's money going to be reinvested in these marketplaces and in marketplace technology. What's kind of the next big thing in marketplaces? Will they do you just see the kind of the way that they're made, structured and built continuing, or are there some big things that are likely to change in terms of what they offer and how they run? You know, even just how you were just talking then about marketplaces offering additional services, helping sellers to advertise and whatever. Are there, they're kind of newer things we should look out for?
So yeah, my mind's popping off on this. So I think there are big things happening on the B2B side. I think B2B e-commerce is growing hugely, and B2B marketplaces are a part of that growth. So on the B2B side, you'll see that, and with that there's an even greater requirement on the B2B side for those additional services to wrap around, because it's less mature there, but the volumes are much higher, and so for a marketplace it's very attractive. So I think the next big thing on marketplaces is definitely look at the B2B side of the world, but I think in retail, the big thing could potentially be also direct to consumer marketplaces. So you'll have large, massive brands, you know, who previously haven't had any contact directly with their end customer, starting to try and pull back some of that control. So, I mean, we're already seeing brands like Nike stating that they very clearly want to go more direct than they have done previously, and are very picky about the channels that they choose. So it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of large multinational brands would start to try and launch their own marketplaces to give consumers more opportunities to engage with that brand. And so, I think on the consumer side, expect to see things like that. But on the B2B side, it's it's a really, really big playing field out there that can be dominated in the years to come.
Yeah, fascinating. And I think you're absolutely right about D2C. That feels like, one of the, if there was another big kind of emerging trend at the moment, that was definitely the one. Lawrence, thank you so much again for your time. It's been fascinating as always. That's all we've got time for this time, but please tune in again for another Modern Commerce Talk. Thanks very much for taking the time to listen. We'll see you again. Thank you.
Bye.